Welcome to the June 10, 2019 meeting of the Auburn Board of Selectmen. Under the town meeting law, we ask if anybody's recording this meeting. Seeing nobody, then can we stand and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We had a couple people come in a little bit late, so I'm just going to open this up again to public comments. If you wish to make public comments before our meeting, then you can sign up and just give us a brief topic. Otherwise, we will move on to the next portion of the agenda. Okay, we don't have any public hearings or presentations tonight. And under communications, well, I have this card in front of me, so I'm just going to open it up and take a look at it, because I just received it. So it is under communications from the family of Ann L. Weston. Thanks for your kindness and sympathy at a time when it was deeply appreciated. To the Auburn Board of Selectmen, we greatly appreciate the beautiful arrangement of flowers sent for Ann's services. Sincerely, Rachel, Ann's sister, Galasso, and family, and Dora Weston, Ann's mom. And that's addressed to the Auburn Board of Selectmen. So I'll pass that along so you can see that. Thank you. Yes.
I'm sorry if I may. I just got a text that there is no audio with this recording. So the cable television is looking into getting that audio, but I just want you to be aware of it. Should you hear, we're aware of it. We just found out, so we're going to see what we can do about getting that audio working. It is being taped, so you can see it, but the audio is not working right now.
All right. And what about under the YouTube? Is that still...
That would be affected. The audio would be affected.
The audio is affecting
I believe because it will live stream from here. So hopefully it will get going in a few minutes, but
Okay.
just thought you should know.
Okay, we will move on. Under the Board of Selectmen general items, we have Sheldon's Harley-Davidson one-day outdoor entertainment license and a one-day beer and wine license per the event calendar for the remaining dates. And you'll all have that in your packets. Is there a representative from Sheldon's Harley-Davidson here tonight? Would you come up and join us at the bench, please?
Love to.
And will you identify yourself for...
Yeah, I'm Chad Raymond, Director of Operations for NF Sheldon's.
Okay. Here in front of us, we have the outdoor entertainment license that you transmitted to us on March 29th. And it's for several events that you're going to have there. Let's see if I can get the... It's from 5/22 is the last one you had. And then 5/17, okay, so 5/17 is the last one you had. That was the bike night. So we have 6/16, 6/21, 7/19, 8/16, and a tentative date for 9/20. What are your plans for these nights?
So, ultimately, it's what we've always done at Sheldon's. I mean, we're doing dollar beers and offering, the opportunity to see a live band and basically trying to drive traffic to the dealership.
Okay. I will stand corrected that 6/16 was the Father's Day event, and this board approved that on May 13th for the one-day beer and wine only.
Okay?
Okay, so it's the other dates that I noted, 6/21, 7/19, 8/16, and 9/20. And each one of these, they listed as a bike night and goes from 5 till 8 p.m. And as you just described is what all those events are going to be?
Yeah, I mean, they're all the same. So it's a bike night. Ultimately, we're driving traffic to the store. And
Okay.
I think we got probably 4 or 5 vendors that are going to be there. The site that's been approved by the town that we've always stuck to is ultimately in place. Your concerns in the past were traffic. We got people set up for that to direct traffic. We had one You know, our last one went really well. Not as many people as we hoped for, but it was good.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Through the
Mrs.
chairman-
Goodrich,
Through the
please.
chairman, could he just move a little closer to the microphone?
Yeah,
please?
yeah, I'm sorry. I can talk louder if you want.
Okay.
Thank you.
Has the board got any questions, comments? In the packets tonight, we do have a note of, we've got the overflow parking, we've got all the details of certificate of liability insurance, your, let's see, okay, the fire prevention, the crowd manager training, also tip certifications, and ServSafe certifications. Also, to operate as a food establishment. However, in this packet, we've also received one complaint, and it's dated 5/17 this year.
Yep.
And if I may, I'll just tell you, I don't know if you've received this or not.
Yeah, no, I was actually the person, well, I mean, I gotta think it's the same thing, but he called the dealership complaining about noise. I guess the music had been too loud. Spoke to him, turned the music down appropriately. We got the decibel reading here, because he had asked for that, and we had done that at that time after turning it down, and I didn't know that there was some sort of requirement of what the decibel reading should have been. It had never been discussed per any meeting or approval that we've ever been part of.
Okay. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'll note this. I don't know if the whole board has had a chance, but I'm going to just enlighten you as to what happened here. This is David Norwood. I live on 60 Hill Street, and 60 Hill is opposite the hill from you on Route 20.
Yep.
I called Sheldon's and spoke with their general manager, Chad. I was calling to inquire what their decibel reading was for their live entertainment, as they agreed they were monitoring their noise for surrounding residents at the last town hall meeting. Chad advised me they do not have to monitor their noise level. I advised him per the town meeting to obtain licensure for an entertainment that they were to monitor their noise.
So he had asked what the decibel reading was, and I didn't know of any decibel requirement.
Okay?
Monitoring's a different thing, right? I mean, so as soon as he asked, turn it down, that's what we did.
I requested that Chad turn the volume down as I could hear their music vividly within my home. Closed windows, while infant's health and well-being, having an infant with a chronic medical condition, the concern for his sleep with well-being is elevated for our family. The music was not turned down. I feel that Sheldon's is once again being uncooperative with this matter, as they have for several years now. Please voice our neighborhood's concerns prior to issuing entertainment licenses to Sheldon's. And then also in our packets tonight, we have pictures, I don't know if you've had a chance to see these pictures or not, of people outside of the alcoholic beverage area, playing games in the parking lot and drinking.
Do you mind if I see him?
I'm going to explain a little bit about what they are, but it's mostly people outside of the area of where the alcohol was to be served and playing games, and you can take a look at those. And that's what I have in front of me tonight. So I guess, Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the email that you just read was sent to me on Friday the 17th. On that evening, I was not home the evening of the entertainment license, but being a resident in that area, people contacted me with concerns about the level of music. I received text messages. I did encourage them to contact the Auburn Police. Some residents are reluctant to do that. The pictures that were sent were also sent to me, and I said...
Excuse me, Mrs. Goodrich, I understand that the audio is back on with us tonight.
Okay, thanks. So the photographs in your packet tonight were sent to me via text message, and I asked the person about the photographs, and she said, well, they were taken right off of their own Facebook, so you can inquire, because it was they were on Sheldon's Facebook, and looking at the Facebook, it appeared that the truck that was selling beer had a stack of those orange cups on the table, so anyone with an orange cup, one would believe, had the alcohol.
It would probably be realistically anybody with a band would have the alcohol, not necessarily the
Okay.
orange cup.
Well, that's why they're in our packet tonight, sir, so that we can question you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've certainly had our share of complaints, through the chairman, I'm sorry. Through the chairman, we've had our share of complaints, and it's time that we just addressed all of these concerns. When a resident contacts me, and they wish to be anonymous, I would hope that my board, as a fellow selectman, would accept my word that I did receive these complaints. Again, on that evening, I was visiting a sick friend in the hospital. It was impossible for me to go home and hear the noise level, but people were genuinely upset, and it's like, do we have to go through this the entire summer? And I know at our last meeting, I asked the board's permission to play an audio, just so that, because I am a resident in that area, but with the chairman's permission, and this is not the last event, I just want the board to understand Friday after Friday what the residents of,
It's one Friday a month, but
okay.
Okay, so we don't have the back and forth, please go through the chair.
With your
Thank you.
permission, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
This is taken from inside my home. Standing inside my front door, and I can make that, if I was more technologically savvy, I could make that available, but as I'm not. So, I mean, I acknowledge I'm a resident. I'm not home many Fridays at all, so it's not affecting me personally. I'm away most weekends, but I can attest that I've heard from several residents, many of who are concerned. They don't want any retribution, so they are reluctant to speak up. But I did encourage residents to come tonight, I don't know if any have, and share their concerns with the entire board.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Is there anybody else got anything?
It's up to the chairman.
Yes, Mr. Berthew.
I see people in the audience.
Yeah, I'm going to, I just want to be sure that the board is recognized first, and then we'll approach the public. Has anybody else got anything? Okay. Is there anybody, butters to Sheldon's in the area, Route 20? Yes.
I'm on the sunny side of the road.
Okay, yep. Please come up and identify yourself.
Hello, I'm Mark McCrillis. I'm on 12 Sunnyside Road. I've been in front of you guys before about Sheldon's and the noise complaint. Obviously, I'm not directly off Route 20. We're a quiet cul-de-sac, dead-end neighborhood. Every time they have an event, it disturbs the peace. Now, I get, what they're trying to do, but, that's not the neighborhood I bought into. This is devaluing my property. If I were to sell my house and they're having an event and I have an open house the same day, no one's going to want to buy it. If I have all the windows closed and I can still hear it with the air condition on, come on. I mean, what has to be done to get these guys in line? I've stood here before, I'm frustrated, they don't listen. There was a meeting last October. Oh, they got to be better. We're going to give them another chance. They keep getting chance after chance. How much longer?
so last
Okay.
October, what was that concerning last October?
Through the chair, please ask me the questions, and we
Oh, I'm
will have
sorry. So,
him.
yeah,
Please.
last October, what was that in regards to?
The October, that was another event. I haven't got that calendar in front of me, so I don't know exactly what event that was.
Surely it would have been inside because we had nothing planned in the fall for anything like that. So I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay? Yes, Mr. McCrillis.
I don't have the date in front of me. I believe it was a meeting for you guys that I came to. It might have been in September or October that was summarizing some of the events of the past at Sheldon's. And at that meeting, it was noted that there was nothing else until the spring, and we would deal with it more then. It's just getting frustrating.
So
Thank you.
certainly, I mean, you know, last year, we didn't have one complaint going through the entire year. Doreen, you're the one, I mean, you were sitting here and, you know, you approved our events. We went through the entire year with not one complaint whatsoever. And now all of a sudden, we've even reduced the amount of events that we're doing. We've taken an hour back from the time, right? And hoping that it would alleviate what he's talking about. And I can certainly understand your concern with the noise. Whether or not you had the air conditioner going on a 70-degree evening, I don't know about that. But, you know, all we're trying to do is do our best here. And we do a really good job for the town, you know, for the police department, for the fire department, and that might not mean anything to you guys, but it means a lot to me, because the community does mean a lot to me. The other part is we just had an event, and I'm not sure if you brought your family, and you should have, and everybody else in the neighborhood should have brought their families, but we invited the town down. We had a great event. You know, I think we had a DJ inside. The other part of that is that everybody in this room gets paid some certain way, right? Hourly or commission? Well, that's how
I don't think that has any bearing on what we're discussing here tonight. Thank you.
Well, no, it actually does, because the point of it is that everybody in the dealership I'm responsible for pay-wise, and these events make a difference to them. It makes a difference to their families. It makes a difference to the individual, right? They're compensated by commission. So when we drive traffic to the dealership, it helps them make more money, right? And whatever it is we have to do, I'm willing to do to be compliant.
I understand.
I think I've proven to you guys that. The other part of that, sorry, go ahead.
I understand that, Chad, but when I actually have pictures off of your website violating what we've discussed and says, oh, this is going to be done, it's going to be taken care of, we're not going to have a problem, and then I have video pictures here showing that, no, you're not following along. The retribution, I understand that people are not going to come forward and make a complaint. They have to talk amongst the neighborhood, but they are afraid of retribution. They don't want to come back and, you know, make a formal complaint. That's unfortunate. We have a gentleman here tonight is making a complaint that there's a lot of noise out there. With these pictures, that complaint, and the noise I've heard off of a tape recorder, which was, you know, from, you know, say 500 feet, 1,000 feet away, then you also have Sunnyside where they can hear it, which is that much further away up Hill Street. No, you're not following along with what the guidelines are of what this board has approved for you in the past.
So, Mr. Chairman, these are behind the fence of where we were supposed to be. Last year, we never had an issue, okay? You guys didn't care about where the beer was, and we still maintained
Oh,
it.
I don't believe that's the case. We
I'm
had
positive it's the
a
case.
roped-off area that we said, this is where we were going to be. You had to be identified with some sort of a band or something in order to be drinking, and they're outside of the tent. They may be outside of the fence, but they're with your...
No, they're behind the fence.
Okay, still, it's with you and the people that you've attracted. That doesn't go along with, regardless of whether it's on your property or within your responsibility, it's still, you're responsible for what's going on here.
Sure, yeah, no, we were, too.
And these pictures show that the responsibility is not there. Mrs. Goodrich.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the town manager has it available, but can make it available, you know, if we move on to other questions. But I believe there's an updated police report, because
Through the chair, initially, the board asked me to look into any complaints that the police department may have received for the events that the board has approved for this year, calendar year 2019. The police chief went one step further on your behalf and looked back to 1 year from today. So he went back to, 1 year from May, when the event started. And he said that he received, could be a storm, though I hear, that he received, there we go. The dispatch had logged that there were 4 different dates, therefore 4 different events, of which 1 or more people called to complain about loud music. And I asked him to define or more, and he said somewhere between 2, 3, possibly 4 people. And there were 4 events. One was on May 11th of last year, 2018. One was on September 7th of 2018. One was on September 21st of 2018. And then the most recent was May 17th of 2019. And there was one call, and I believe that is the gentleman that, I know that is the gentleman that emailed you, Mrs. Goodrich, to say that he had contacted the police as well, and that call was logged in. So one call this year, and then 3 events from last year from which there were calls.
Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to be clear, and I'm not trying to have an adversarial conversation with you. It's my job as an elected official to bring the complaints to the board, and we've tried to address these. So I just want to be clear regarding the police complaints. We were doing a different type of search, maybe for Sheldon's, but once we did the search, we did bring up several complaints from last year and one from this year. So there were complaints from last year, and I believe we've discussed them in the past.
I mean, I
So
guess,
now they're officially documented. We have the police log.
yeah, I mean, if that was the case, I can't imagine why you wouldn't have reached out last year, especially with the earlier May 11th, right? I mean, you know, you guys allowed us to go the entire year and not have an issue. Surely
Well-
Rachel or somebody would have reached out and had a conversation.
If I may, you've had representatives here at certain meetings over the course of the year, and I think you were told about them and said, yes, we will take care of that, and we didn't know what was going on, we weren't identifying it, but we will be responsible enough to take care of it. The complaints continue to come in. We got another complaint tonight, and now we have pictures, and,
We weren't aware of the ones last year.
well, there was some,
Not for nothing, but that's what we're going on, right? Is all these complaints that you're telling me that we
But
have.
you know
but
what?
Why didn't I know about them?
okay, I don't know that, I don't understand what the communication was, but if there are complaints, Mr. Berthium, please.
Through the chair, Chad, I've basically backed you and gone to bat for you every single time. For you to sit up here tonight and say that there was nothing last year, every time we've sat with Sheldon's, we've discussed this, we've discussed the noise issue, okay? We drew back the times. I appreciate that you're giving in to that, okay? But for you to sit here tonight and say, we went all last year without a problem, that's not fair, because the representatives that you sent last year,
It was me.
no, it wasn't always you.
100%
okay?
was.
Absolutely was not, and we'll check.
Look at the video.
We will. And I will say that the sound issue was discussed, okay? Because I know I backed it at least, even this year,
You did.
I've backed it at least 4 or 5 times, okay? So I'm torn, okay? I'm still torn because I understand that what Sheldon's does for the town. I understand what Harley Davidson dealerships do to bring money in and to sell motorcycles, and they have events like that. I just came back from Laconia Bike Week. I know how loud motorcycles are. I know how loud concerts are. So that's the part of me that wants to be able to find this happy medium. The last meeting that I went to, that we were at, that we discussed this, I don't remember if it was you or not, but whoever I was talking to, I specifically said, if a resident calls, I don't think it was you, but if a resident calls, okay, and specifically says that music is too loud, will you turn it down to a point where they can actually notice that it's turned down? That person said to me from your organization, yes, we will.
Carolyn, yeah.
Okay, it was you then, okay, so now we get a letter that says that you didn't turn it down to a point where they felt like they could, hear that it was, turned down.
Yeah.
So it's like we've got to come up with some sort of a happy medium, because the alternative is that we have to say no more music, and I don't, again, it's sort of like, I know we talked about it at every meeting where you guys came for a permit last year or outdoor license. I know we've talked about it every time this year that we've come for an outdoor license. So I kind of feel like you're not helping me to help you.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what to do today. I have a feeling I'm going to get outvoted even if I try to stand by you. But it's like, gosh, you know, can we make it like half as loud and still have a successful event? Even if we did let it go through today, you know, can it be, you have the decibel thing now, can it be half as loud? I don't know what the answer is. I know it's an echo chamber there. There's no doubt about it, but, you know, I don't know what the answer is at this point.
So, you know, ultimately, if you go down on a Friday afternoon to Route 20 and pull out a decibel meter at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it probably reads more than this, okay? If you do that, I can tell you it probably reads more than that, right? And at the same time, you know, and I get what I appreciate it, you know, and I go back to last year, we met once, actually twice. I think March, we got our first event approved, and then the second time we met in April, you guys approved us for the entire, it was May maybe, you approved us for the entire year. And you said, if we have complaints, we're gonna let you know, and we might have to adjust things. So I felt really good going through August, not having any complaints. I'm like, well, great, the town's gonna, we're doing a good job. You know, the other part of that is we've been there a long time, okay? And you're right, Sheldon's does a lot for the community. The owners and I, we're prepared to make a decision to move out of the town of Auburn because we cannot be competitive in this market, right? And I'm serious about this. We had this conversation the last time Geraldine was here. You know, and that would move, that would...
I'm sorry, I don't believe we need to have that leverage here, that you are going to move out of town if you don't get your way. I don't think that's what we're here to
I don't want-
discuss.
It ain't about me getting my way.
No, I understand that.
It's not about
But to approach this board with that is not appropriate here. Thank you.
Oh, what else am I supposed to say?
Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I absolutely appreciate Mr. Berthium's comments. You know, I've struggled here. I've told you I'm not around on Friday night, but I have all of these residents who are reaching out to me, and instead of coming in, you know, and I get it, you said you had no complaints last year. We're having this adversarial conversation instead of, you know, you denying this and denying that instead of, okay, what can we do? I know at the
I'm not
last...
denying
Hold on,
anything.
hold on. At the last meeting,
Yeah.
you know, there was a conversation about having it indoors. So we've tried to work with you, and it's just, I'm frustrated with your attitude towards the board tonight, because...
I don't have an attitude. I'm just,
Okay.
I'm calling out the facts, that's all.
So,
Please let
guys are
her-
bringing this
let her
up.
continue,
Mr. Chairman,
please.
if I can just finish. So I understand that, you know, that there was a belief that there were no complaints, and I was chair at the time, and I had gone to the town manager and said, people have told me they called the police. And I'm like, I don't think these people are lying to me, but there was no record on the log. And now we see why, at that time, we were told there was no record of the calls. But I still verbalized it at the time. We had conversations about the concerns. And if I can, I'm not sure all of the members were on here, but when we started with these entertainment licenses, I mean, I don't even think you were around a couple years ago, but we had a meeting prior to town meeting, and we had a resident who sat there saying, and this was on the other side, I believe, like Blaker Street or whatever, saying we have a young family, and the noise is just unbearable. And, you know, and I'll point out that we have a lifetime resident who lives on the hill, who is upset with me, shall I say, and said, you know what, Doreen? I'm not going to the meetings anymore. You guys are going to do what you want to do, and you don't listen to the residents. I'm the voice of the residents tonight. It's not about me personally, because you have been a good business in Auburn. But when these people call and they say, we thought you were going to do this, we thought you were going to hold them accountable, these are young families with young children. I need to share this with my fellow board members.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you,
Anybody
Mr.
got anything
Chairman.
else? Yes, Mr. LaLibert.
Thank you. Through the chair. So I'll echo what Lionel has said, or Mr. Berthium. I think since the first day that I was elected, that was the very first time, first meeting that I came to right after being elected was Sheldon's first license, or one of their licensing agreements, and we talked about it then. So it has come up, and I've voted to approve the licensing every time, and it's gotten harder and harder to do that. And I also think the way that this is going, that will be outvoted tonight if that's the feeling of the board. Some things I just wanted to point out for everyone to consider. The pictures that we saw of violating the liquor license, or the requirements that we put on that, I think since we approved the liquor license and the actual licensing for the event separately, that we should probably take that into consideration, or the pictures into consideration for the liquor license only and not as the event. And then separately, I would also say that I looked through our bylaws to see if we have anything really, but we don't have any decimal requirements or standards to hold Sheldon's accountable to. And I think that that's something that we really should look to do moving forward, not just for Sheldon's, but for in general. If we're going to have this conversation with these noise complaints from other events and other businesses in town, it just seems like that's something that should be on the books, that we should really have a set number or a set gauge that we can hold people accountable to, because like we said last time, we can turn down the dial, but I mean, that's totally to the opinion of whoever's house is 2 streets away. So I do think that there needs to be something set in stone there, because I think otherwise it's just going to be harder and harder to have this conversation. And I do have a question for the town manager. I don't know if we have anything available to read the decimal readings. I don't know if that's something that the police department would have, or
I would have to check with the police department and see if they have that.
that's all I have.
Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to make one last comment about the photographs. They were sent to me, so I asked that they be included so that we could make an inquiry. I didn't make any accusations. I didn't make any accusations at all but I wanted to know tonight, when we got to the portion of the beer and wine permit, I wanted an absolute description, because the language that was used, and you weren't here at the last meeting, the language that was used, that it was in the tent, and one of the last things that we said when we approved the license was that the alcohol cannot leave the tent. Now, if you're telling us that there is a roped-off area that's a portion of the tent, that's not what we heard last time. And we need to be very clear on these so we don't continue to get these complaints.
Sure.
Because those were the last words we said. Remember, the beer and wine stays under the tent, so that it's controlled. It's an outdoor beer and wine thing, but you've got a large piece of property there, can't tell from the pictures what's what, but there was certainly orange cups outdoors, be it at the dumpster area, the cornhole,
Yep.
And some people at a picnic table playing Jenga. So when we got to that portion, it was my intent to ask you, not to have this adversarial back and forth. It was, can you tell me about these pictures, where they are and how they came about?
Yeah, and I'm going on the facts. You don't think that I'm having an attitude with you guys. I'm speaking intelligently, period, right? I mean, don't confuse the way I'm speaking to you with an attitude. It's more passion to make the dealership and for what we're doing better. That's all. And to your point about having it indoors, I offered that last year, and DCG told me that I would have to have an architect come in and make sure that our place was big enough for the people that we have coming through the door, which at any other time on a day, on a Saturday, we have plenty of people going through the door. So no, did I want to spend thousands of dollars to have an architect come through and look at our facility, and then maybe have to rearrange our facility some way, shape, or form to have a bike night? That wasn't an option for me. But that was one thing that was said to me last year by DCG, and then we got the bike nights approved outdoors, and then we have a fence where the beer can stay behind there. I think it is a little unrealistic to keep it inside the tent for us. However, indoors, we could do that. That's a lot easier to do.
Well, it's unfortunate you made a note that it's unrealistic for you to keep it within the rules or regulations that you agreed to.
I'm being honest
Yeah,
with
I
you.
understand what you're saying.
Being honest
I've got,
with
yes, I do. I understand that. We've had a lot of discussion here, and yes, Mr. Carpenter, and then I will continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to your point, in October of last year, this board did have a meeting, and you were supposed to come in before we approved anything for this year. And I'm sure the manager has my emails asking the status of those, and it never happened. Now, I don't know why it didn't happen, but
I would have
I've been on the
been.
board for 5 years, and we've had an issue every time you have an event. Now, the police chief just let us know that there was something wrong with the search. So there have been complaints. There have been complaints from people, if you're aware of where Sunnyside Drive is or Appleton Road is, and if they can still hear your music, which is mid-Prospect Hill, you're way over here. They shouldn't be hearing anything, but they do. And I happen to be on Tinker Hill or Blaker Street or Albert Street, and I happen to talk to a resident there, and they say they can hear it, and it's a problem.
It's outdoors, I'm sure they can.
So, but the issue is, you're trying to pit us against you, a business against the residents, and that's not how things go.
Okay.
The residents of the town have made an investment, as have you. Their investment is no less important to me than yours. And there are a hell of a lot more of them than there are of you. So when they're constantly calling and they're making an issue, and I just keep hearing the same excuses and the same complaints over and over of not being responsive, not being respectful, well, that doesn't sit well with me. So we need to, I'm not approving any outdoor licenses for you. And as for liquor licenses, I'm not approving those either, because if you can't follow what we ask you to do, then you've lost the right to have that.
Okay.
Everybody else, when we put requirements on them, have complied. When they have these events, I don't get calls anywhere else. I have not had a call from St. Joseph's down the hill. Not once, and they have multiple events. I have not had one complaint from the golf course. Town-owned. And believe me, if somebody was misbehaving up on the golf course, we'd all hear about it. So I'm not in the middle anymore. I gave you one more shot. You're going to have that shot this week because we already approved it, but as for me, I'm not approving anymore because clearly we can't, there is no happy medium. So we just have to say no.
I'm not saying there's not, first of all.
Excuse me.
We're not at that point yet, but
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Is anybody else from the board got a comment or anything? Yes, Mr. Berthew, and then I will get to you.
I guess, so a question that I have is, why does the music have to be so loud? Does that like encourage people to stay? Does it encourage people to drink more? Like, to me, when I go to an event and like that, and the music is that loud, and I can't talk to my friend right next to me without basically yelling, it's more for me, I'm deaf in one ear, so it's even worse for me when there's background music. But for me, when the music is that loud, right there, I tend to just want to get out of there quicker. So I guess my question is why can't we put it at like a comfortable, like, background music as opposed to a, head-banging, drinking beer music, I guess is what I'm hearing. So can we try that this week and see how low it can go and still have a successful event? And hopefully, like, we can get some feedback from some of the residents that, if you wouldn't mind referring back to us, like this weekend, how it goes. Because I don't want to stop these events. I want to figure out that medium. And I just, kind of don't get the loud music. So I don't know why, and every band does it, for whatever reason. Maybe because they really stink at singing and they just want to, like, blast it so they sound better. I don't know what it is, but oftentimes it's like the music is just 10 times more than it needs to be. So I guess I would ask that, you know, try to get it as low as you can at this next function, and what you feel, and then let's hear from the residents again, you know? That's, because it's already approved, so.
Thank you, Mr. Bertheum. I've got one lady in the audience. Would you please come up and introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you. I'm Samantha Rayfield, and I live over at 8 Sunnyside Road. I have on my phone a letter that I wrote on May 13th, 2019. And the reason why I'm up here is I understand Sheldon's is a business, and I understand that that's part of the business is to have parties, and motorcycle noise is not what I'm complaining about. Why I sent that email was because the music was noise pollution. It was so loud standing out in my garage, and I live about a half mile as the crow flies, that I knew exactly the song, all the lyrics, and I could sing along. In fact, my 2 girls were dancing, and they said, "This sounds like fun." That was great up until about 7:30 at night when I tried to put my 2 little girls to bed. At that point, I have a noise machine, a fan, and music playing for both of them, and you could still hear the music inside with all the windows closed. To me, that's noise pollution. And unfortunately, I wrote that letter not because I wanted to spoil the fun for everyone, but just because I need to be able to have a family that can sleep at 7:30 at night. That's late for my 6-year-old and my 2-year-old. So I did email that, and I did, in fact, call the police on multiple occasions. Sometimes they would talk to me, other times they would say there's nothing we can do. So the reason why you might not be getting a lot of complaints is because the police are not necessarily taking that into account. I know for a fact that my neighbors, the McCrillises, have called. I know for a fact that my other neighbors on both sides and across from me have also called. And like I said, we're not trying to spoil the fun, but it is getting to a point where I shouldn't, at a half mile away, be able to hear it perfectly. And if I had time, I might have, I don't remember if I recorded it or not, but I'd have to look back, but I'm pretty sure I did record it and you could hear the song. And that's inside my house with all the windows closed. That's really not fair to a resident, especially one with young children. And in talking with my husband before I came here, I'm not opposed to letting it happen once a month, but every single weekend, it's a lot. But even once a month, sometimes it gets a lot. It's so loud, and I understand. It doesn't feel like that, but we live up on Prospect Hill. And I'm not complaining about the motorcycle noise because you can hear that from Route 20, and it has nothing to do with Sheldon's. The music is so loud, and it's uncomfortable, and it's pollution. And I do agree that there should be something in the bylaws that helps us to identify what is acceptable and what is not. And that could be the same for parties in the neighborhood. But, I mean, I shouldn't be able to know every single lyric clear-cut a half mile away. And that, to me, is unfair as a resident of Auburn.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to let the town manager speak, and then I'll get to you, Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question, Chad. I noticed on your website, on your event schedule, that you still have on there all the bike nights for June, July, August, and September. And they're advertising, I just looked 2 minutes ago to make sure it's still there, $1 beer, live music, food truck, vendors, fun, games. And back in March, my office, on my direction, had reached out to your marketing person and asked them to remove any events that did not have approvals from the Board of Selectmen. You're advertising and promoting events that have no approvals.
Yeah.
So that doesn't appear to have happened. Those events are still there, and they're not approved. and that is a concern of mine. If the board chooses to approve the events, that's wonderful. If the board chooses not to approve the events, does that raise another whole issue where now we've been advertising on your website for months for events that may not happen? And I can see that you already have bands scheduled. You have the names of the bands listed. Where's the disconnect?
There's no disconnect. I thought it was it dollar beers, and was it the advertising part of the beer part? I thought that was one of the concerns, and
No, the concern was to advertise for events that had no licenses. So to advertise for live music and beer when you don't have a liquor license or an entertainment license was my concern.
yeah. So we took that off from there. I mean, ultimately,
Actually, it wasn't removed, no.
so it's still on there, is what you're saying?
It's on there right now.
Right. So that's why we got them approved all at once last year. I mean, ultimately, if I can't do any, I don't want to do them at all, because ultimately, I'm spending money. And when I say money, I'm spending upwards of $200,000 to $300,000 worth of advertising and marketing for Sheldon's for the year. And it doesn't make sense. Like this bike night that is approved, I don't even want to do it, because it's not effective, right? And I would rather you guys tell me no, so that I don't have to spend time and effort, payroll, getting people to the dealership, and because it's not effective, right? If you're going to go to Best Buy or Walmart and pay for something, you want to get your return on it, right? So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Well, I do understand through the chair, promotions, marketing, advertising for businesses. I understand that. I think it's great. Again, we love businesses in Auburn. We are business friendly. We want businesses to stay, but we do have to make sure that there is a balance and that the rules and regulations are being followed. So from what I saw, and a blatant disregard for the email that we sent asking to remove those items from your calendar because they're not approved yet. It's letting people know that you're having an event that nobody has approved yet.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that that was appropriate, so I wanted to raise
That's our
that.
fault, and obviously a miscommunication that we didn't.
No, thank you. That's why I did want to raise it, because it was a
There is a
concern.
serious disconnect there, and that's another kind of a problem here. But Mrs. Goodrich, did you have something else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had one point, but now I have a second. Just to your point of just saying no, clearly, we've tried to work with you. I understand the marketing. We've said yes when we've had people who've wanted us to say no because we've wanted to give you the chance. So that's why we've said yes. If you want us to just say no, I think you just said it. And just a point of clarification on Mr. Berthium's point, asking that we monitor. The event this weekend has no live entertainment. It's just the beer and wine license. So there would be no live entertainment to monitor this weekend. So there isn't an opportunity of an approved live event that we could monitor. Just point of clarification.
I had thought Rachel told us that.
Thank you.
Because we had
Okay.
asked if we had to go before DCG for this, and we reached out to Rachel, and she said that we did not have to for any of the permits.
Okay. Unfortunately, there's some sort of a disconnect there and a miscommunication. But
Through the chair, I can,
Yes.
yeah, I believe that Rachel had been communicating, explaining to you early on, and this was back in March, what you needed to do. You needed to go to DCG, you needed to make sure you had your layout, your plans in place, and that you needed to get an entertainment license for those events that had live music, and a beer and wine license for those events that had beer. And she also said that she wanted you to, we wanted you to take those events off of your website until such approvals were given. And I believe the response from your marketing person was, there isn't anything on our website, we haven't put them up yet. And I saw them myself.
And
Thank you.
point of clarification, Mr.
Yes,
Holcomb.
point of clarification
I
is?
just want to be clear that this is not their website, but their Facebook page that I'm referencing.
And I was referencing the website, so two
Okay.
different.
Yeah,
I
it's their
was on their
Facebook
website.
page that I'm referencing with the advertised.
still within the social media that's open
Yeah.
to many.
I just wanted to be
And
clear
through the
on
chair,
that.
just to be
Yes,
clear
please.
too, I just checked, I was on their website, actually, under your information.
Yes, Mr. Little Liberty.
I just have a question for Chad, so through the chair. What was the decimal reading that you had before and after the resident called to complain?
I didn't have the before, but the after was 76.3 was a decibel. That's what it was. I got it.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Berthium.
I'd just like to make a comment before we vote, because I feel like we're going to get because the license is probably going to be a no, but again, I'm torn. I would like to see Sheldon's continue to be able to do events. I have a hard time with the fact that we're literally talking about 3 hours once a month. And I totally appreciate the neighbors. I totally appreciate young children. Maybe we could push it back to 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, something like that. I really kind of feel like, if all of a sudden, Six Flags brings a band in, the people that are near Six Flags that didn't move there thinking of the certain noise, and then a band comes and plays loud, it's probably going to be one night, and it's 2 or 3 hours. So for that reason, I just want to say that I would like to see some sort of a happy medium, but, I totally appreciate the residents. I totally appreciate what you are trying to do for your business, and I would like to see the entertainment continue, or have you be able to have events, I should say. And I just don't know what the answers are anymore. But I personally would like to see you continue to have events, and that's just my own personal opinion. I want to get that out there before the vote is taken.
Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Berthium, I agree with you. Like, I'm not looking to do away with these. I've heard from plenty of residents who have, but I just heard from a woman who said, 7 o'clock, it was fine, and then, we heard from a resident previous who was here, who had small children, because there was a question of whether it was a school night or not, so I don't know what your feelings are, but we have reduced the calendar to once a month, and you could possibly agree to 7 p.m., but I would like to hear from the residents who are here tonight on their views, because you've agreed to turn the music down, but it hasn't been turned down. And I have, I think, 2 more audios on my phone from different bands, and you can tell it's a different style of music. And standing up on the hill and be able, as she said, to hear the lyrics is concerning. So I'm torn here. Do we approve the license with a handshake that says, you know what, Chad, I'm Chad, and I'm assuring you that I'm going to turn the music down, when this has been ongoing for 2 years? I just need something. Thank you,
Mrs.
Mr.
Goodrich.
Chairman.
Yes, please. Yes, no, come up to the microphone so we can all hear you.
So Mr. McCrillis and I, who are neighbors, we both do agree that if you ended it at 7, that would be fine with us. That would be an appropriate accommodation, because that would allow us to get our children to go to bed at a reasonable time instead of going till 8 or 9 o'clock, which then impacts their ability to go to bed. So we would be okay with that,
So,
around there.
Yeah, please, we'll hear from Mr. McCrillis. We'll hear from the residents.
yeah.
Please.
Go back and forth as well.
No, we're not going to go back and forth. I want to hear from the residents.
So just my
Thank you.
opinion, just because it's asked and she shared hers, 7 would help, but I just have trouble believing that they'll actually comply. How many times have we seen them not listen? You've asked to remove things from the website, wasn't done. Asked to turn down the volume, wasn't done. Complained, oh, we didn't hear any complaints. Please, I've personally called the dealership and complained, and it's fallen on deaf ears.
No, we spoke. You and I did, yeah.
Why
Through
would
the
you
chair,
say
please.
earlier that we
Through the
didn't
chair,
complain?
please.
You're contradicting yourself. I can't put any trust in what you're saying. That's my big concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Stop cutting me off here. So ultimately, I'll go one step further. We'll take it out of Friday night. We won't do Friday nights anymore. We'll do Saturday afternoons, and we won't even call it a bike night. I want to respect their family. I want to respect the neighborhood across the street. And we can make this very easy from like a noon to 2 or a noon to 3 type of thing, where the noise might not necessarily be as much of a concern, and it will be respectable, right? We don't need to do it at night, because I want their kids to be able to go to sleep and to be able to, I got a daughter at home, she's 11, going on 16, right? But she was 2 o'clock, sorry, she was at, 2 once and 3 and 4 and all the other ages. So I want the people across the street and in that neighborhood to be able to have the peace that they need and that they deserve, because they are a resident of the town or city, and I don't want their property values to go down, because I'm a homeowner. I got 2 of them, 2 houses, right? I want to make sure that whatever it is that you guys think needs to happen, sound-wise, happens. Obviously, we were behind the fence. I was assuming that we should have been behind the fence. I mean, these photos that you guys have given us, or me, they're behind the fence, and we got these activities for these people to be able to come and enjoy themselves. We're talking about Jenga here. We're not talking about people doing keg stands off from a keg. And we're talking about cornhole, okay? So these things I still want to have. If you tell me to set them on fire, I guess that's what I'll have to do. But I just spent $2,000, and the monetary part does not make a difference. I don't want you to think that I'm saying it like that. But I just spent a lot of money to get 8 sets of cornholes, so people are hog chapped. We're gonna have competitions for this stuff, So if it's a Saturday that we have to do, unfortunately, we're gonna have to come back and do this all over again. And by that point, we're gonna be into July, and but Saturday might work.
I guess you just mentioned a hog chapter.
Yeah.
That's a motorcycle group to come over and have competition on your site while you're trying to sell motorcycles. You're not selling motorcycles, you're having a fair there. As far as I'm concerned, Sheldon's, and even after you said, you know what, we may move, well, then I would believe, my feeling is move. Because it's time for me to step up and talk for the residents and say, no. Let me finish, please.
I'm not gonna, because
No, you're going to let me finish. I am the chair of this meeting. This is my meeting, and you will listen.
Okay.
I have been listening to everybody tonight. Now, there's been complaints. There's been problems with communication, with advertising on stuff that hasn't been happening. We've got pictures here showing outside of the bounds of the regulations that were set up. Traffic, fire, I mean, all that has been taken care of, I guess, but the rest of it is not. And the biggest problem I'm having is the noise. And if you put dollar beers out there, the dollar beers are gonna flow. And then when the dollar beers flow, the noise is going to go up. And then it's going to continue and continue. And then when you're telling me that these group of motorcycle people are coming over to have a competition, you're not selling motorcycles, you're having a fair. It's time for me.
you're using that as an example. All I'm saying is that, and by the way, I don't know, how old are you, sir?
It's regardless.
No, it's not. How old are you?
It doesn't make any difference how old I am. I am going
Most of the
to.
people in the hog chapter are your age or older.
That's fine.
So you know, and they're a great group of folks, and they're not even going to have it at our place. They do it at the Elks Lodge in the town of Auburn.
Okay,
The
then
other point of that, to your point of the beer, one flows after another and after another, you're wrong. We cap it at 3, just like I agreed on,
Okay.
and we mark it, and our limited liability license makes sure that happens.
Thank you. I've been here 7 years now, and for the past 2 years, we've heard it back and forth, back and forth. We're going to do, it doesn't get happen. We're hearing pictures, seeing pictures tonight. We're hearing off a tape off of a house. We've got residents that are half a mile away hearing this. Regardless whether you do it on a Friday night or you do it on a Saturday afternoon, people are going to have picnics, they're going to have outside events at their own home, and they're going to have to listen to this. But I'm sorry.
Come on.
Excuse me, you're here to listen. We have listened to you, you will listen to me.
Okay.
I'm going to step up for the residents and say, no more. I don't want to hear volumes of music out there. I don't want beer outside of the rules and regulations that you've agreed to before. And I'm not going to come back and sit in this meeting again for another 2 years and say, well, maybe if we try it this way, we try it that way. That's my feeling. The board has had their chance to say it, so now I've had my say. So I'm going to let the board decide on what they want to do, and then we can go from there.
I'm trying to be reasonable with what you guys
I
are saying.
understand that. Thank you
No,
very
you're
much
not.
for coming in and speaking. So now I'm going to listen to the board again, please. Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So thank you for the explanation. Like I said, it wasn't an accusation. I wanted that clarified. Generally, when we do outdoor alcohol, we want to be assured that it's within an area that's being observed to be sure that alcohol isn't being snuck out around the corner. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying any other place. There could be underage people there. If it doesn't matter if you have a wristband, if you're not able to monitor that area. So maybe there was miscommunication as to under the tent as opposed to a fenced-in area. As long as you can assure us that that fenced-in area is being monitored, so that our biggest concern is underage drinking and over-drinking. So although you cap it at 3, when you have a closed-in area that you can monitor, you can also be assured that, the person who was capped at 3's friend who doesn't drink got 3 for him. That's our concern, over-serving and serving to minors. That's all. That's our job as the licensing authority. So it wasn't an accusation, and there was some miscommunication about the outdoor. I don't have a problem with somebody standing there and having a beer while they're playing Jenga, as long as we know that the people who are tip certified are monitoring those who are having alcohol.
Sure.
And to the point of the entertainment license, again, we're in a situation where Mr. McCrillis is agreeing, if he could have faith in you that the music from 4 to 7 or 5 to 7 or whatever it is, but you've lost, I believe I just heard you say to Mr. McCrillis, I spoke to you, but you said you had no complaints. So,
Well, no, I'm saying last year.
Through the
That was
chair,
it.
please.
I
You
agree 100%.
bring it to me,
I'm sorry,
please.
I'm not used to this sort of thing.
That's okay. I want to be sure we have
again-
control over this. so
Yeah,
that-
no, I get it.
Thank you.
So again, it's just the concerns that we've had over the last 2 years and the confidence that we need to have. Again, I think, and I'm hoping that she found the audio that she had. She's not listening to me right now. Did you find the audio that you had from up on Sunnyside?
I didn't. I have to go out.
Okay. But again, we went from every Friday night, which is concerning, to once a month, which could be reasonable if we had the confidence that we weren't going to get these calls. And I don't know how to resolve that.
Please.
Through the chair, so it was every other is what we were doing, not every. And then to once a month, right? It made sense to us financially to do it once a month and for the town. To their point, and I just looked at them and looked at you guys and said this, right? That if we could do this on a Saturday and have it make sense for you guys and us, I'd be willing to do that. Or willing to try, at least, because that's what it's coming down to at this point.
Okay. Mr. Berthew.
I want to clarify something that Chad said, and I want to make sure it's not taken out of context. The word hog,
No,
okay?
I understand the
A hog is a Harley owners group. So when you buy a motorcycle, you get like a membership in this Harley owners group. Just like anything else, when you become a member of something, you get store events, you get facility events. So I just want to make sure that that the public knows that this isn't like the Hog movie or anything like that. It's a Harley owners group, and it's kind of like a benefit that they're able to set up playing games and things like that. And also, being a Harley owner, I'm not right now, but going to Bike Week this weekend, you know, you look at bikes and you're like, oh, you know, I might want to get one again, and you start looking at ones, and so when you have your Harley owners group, and they come in, and let's say they're an owner of a 5-year-old motorcycle, it very much is a sales event, because that person is walking past brand-new motorcycles that they may decide to trade in toward a new one. So I just want to make sure the public understands that it's not some sort of like a drunk fest from this biker gang that's called the Hogs. It's a Harley owners group, and it's kind of a perk to have events and to be able to see motorcycles.
Can I speak to that, to the chair? To his point, if you go to their website, worcesterhog.com, or the Worcester chapter, and you look at the amount of charity that these people do for this community, it would amaze you. All right, and I say that, the event that I had, our Safety Saturday, that we invited the town of Auburn, they made over 200 Easter baskets for children that day. And then they brought the difference that they didn't have over to UMass, to the pediatrics, and brought the remaining of the baskets to them. So this is not a biker gang or anything like that.
No, I understand. I understand the lingo. I know what a Harley owners group is. Believe me, and it's there are groups around it that they are very charitable, and I do understand that.
Yeah.
But we're talking about sales of motorcycles, not charitable events.
But it
Please,
helps.
yes, I understand that, and I'll go back to the board. I would like to, at some point, get a motion on the table, and then we can discuss it further. So, yeah, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to make a motion that we take a 5-minute recess so that we can cool down and think about this.
Second.
Okay, the motion been made and seconded for a 5-minute recess. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are recessed for 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. We are back from recess. I believe we have the general manager here. Would you please introduce yourself to us?
My name is Robert Thompson. I'm currently the general manager at Sheldon's Harley-Davidson. And I have a few things to speak about. I'd like, for starters, as you spoke, the decibel level, I think, is a crucial implementation of what we can and can't do, right? Music's going to move. It's going to travel. So I need to know what that line in the sand is. Also, I'm going to be at that dealership 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's my commitment and that's my job. So those phone calls will be received to a point where I've just spoken to the 2 residents that did raise their hands and say something. If they want to call my cell phone, they want to reach out to the dealership and say, listen, with this, it's too loud, adjust it, we'll adjust it. And I'll happily make that commitment to you. I have an 18-month at home. To be honest, if I had to deal with what I've heard was happening, I would have been the guy standing in the dealership raising hell. So that's my first thing. I'd like to know what the decibel level expectation is so that I can ensure that that doesn't happen. And until we figure that out, any phone call made to the dealership or to myself, I promise you the music will be brought down to an acceptable level. Acceptable level being the subjective part of that conversation. The other part of the disconnect, because that was listed as an issue, the advertisements that were on both Facebook and our webpage. That's not a disconnect. We use those events as a marketing tool, an effort to drive traffic and sell motorcycles. If I can't do that at Sheldon's Harley-Davidson, I will do that at a different venue, whether that be in Auburn or somewhere else. I will use that event to my benefit to sell bikes. It's not it's not a disconnect. If I can't do it at Sheldon's, I will last minute change the address and the venue and say, listen, we have to move this here based on weather or based on attendance or based on whatever. It's not a disconnect. We need to use those events as advertising to move units. And that's part of being cooperative as far as the community goes. So I understand if we can't get that approved, but I will have to do those elsewhere.
Mr. Thompson, I do have one question for you.
Sure.
How long have you been the general manager at Sheldon's on Southbridge Street?
Sheldon's, I've been at Sheldon's since last Monday, and I've been a general manager at Harley-Davidson dealerships across the country for the last 14 years.
So you've only been here since Monday?
Correct.
Okay, so you weren't aware of any of the issues with the
With the noise.
Southbridge Street noise?
So, no, I'm obviously not aware of specific events. However, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to stand in that parking lot and see how music that is played forward across Route 20 would easily travel up that hill, which once again, noise volume and noise pollution is really a subjective scenario, which is why I would like to figure out what the acceptable decibel level is. And realistically, by 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, loud music is obviously not going to work for anybody there. But if we're doing it once again on a Saturday afternoon or cut it off by 7 on a Friday night, what are those acceptable levels? Because we're willing to work within the confines and expectations and keep the community happy.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Thompson. Ms. Jacobson.
I just want to respond. Thank you for those suggestions. It's my understanding that our building commissioner does have a decibel reader that he uses for other things. I'm not sure about the police department, but I believe the building commissioner has one. But we can look into what would be an acceptable level. We don't have a bylaw to that. As Mr. Liberty said, it's been discussed. I believe the zoning bylaw review committee has discussed putting in place some type of a noise bylaw. Right now, we don't have one. But DEP may have some levels that we could look at. There may be some state laws that we can look at to try to get that. Right now, I wouldn't be able to tell you what would be an acceptable level. I don't know what that is because we don't have it as a law. But we're happy if the board wants us to pursue it and look into it and see if there's any way to come up with what would be an acceptable decibel level and whether we have the appropriate equipment to measure that.
To the chair,
Yes,
if possible.
please.
I think I'm doing that right. Ms. Goodrich, based on the conversation, what I've noticed is you appear to be the individual that's located directly on the other side of that hill.
Yes.
And you experience most of that, correct? Or the young man, the individuals that I just met in your area, correct?
So just to be clear, it's rare that I'm home on a Friday night, but I get the calls.
I'm sure.
I get the text messages, and I get the emails. The email that was forwarded to the rest of the board came to me directly because they know I'm in the vicinity.
Right.
And I'm only assuming they would believe that I have a better understanding of the noise level.
Correct.
But I want to be very clear. I am being the voice of the residents. This is not me personally
No,
complaining.
And to
Thank you.
and I apologize. It's not an attack. I wanted to address this. How do I directly form that interaction between myself and the community to ensure that instead of us winding in a meeting like this, where Sheldon's is now not compliant and no one's happy with what we're doing, how do I form that scenario to where the residents call me directly? Robbie, turn the music down, because I'll happily do that. I need you guys to be as happy with us as we are being here. To Chad's statement about leaving, no one's jumping up and running out of Auburn. However, we do need to be competitive, and it is something I have to look at. If we can't make this work, I don't want to move again, guys. I'm happy to be here. So how do we make that work? And I need to know what those parameters look like.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from the residents again, if they have any
Hey,
input on that.
Yes, please come forward. I'd like to hear your comments on,
So I do find it interesting that Auburn does not have any noise laws, but in looking, it seems like many other towns do. And you had originally said that when asked to turn down your music, you registered it at 76. Most towns that I'm seeing, Boston, for example, between the hours of 11 and 7 a.m., they can be no higher than 50. And decimal levels should be no louder than 70. So we're already at excess. So that was Boston. And according to Bill Ricca, it's saying 60 between 7 and 10. And then there's Marlboro, which is a little bit closer, 53 in the daytime, 43 at all other times. So we're obviously in excess.
What were those? I'm sorry. What were those numbers again? For the closest one, for Marlboro, please.
Marlboro was residential law 53 dBA in the daytime and 43 dBA at all other times. Marlboro also specifies the max dBA at specific octave levels, along with different dBA levels in different land classification. I mean, I can click on it further, but Worcester.
I think Marlboro is
Have any.
sufficient, to be honest. As far as, not to interrupt you, but I think Marlboro would be sufficient. It's probably the closest and most residential area out of everything you're looking at.
And Worcester doesn't have dBA levels.
So what we talked about, what she mentioned was what, 55 or 60 as a max decibel level during the daytime? Because we obviously don't do business between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. anyways. Would we agree?
Marlboro would be 53 dBA in the
Okay.
daytime and 43 dBA at all other times.
okay. I guess in response to what you had mentioned, how we're going to make this right, 2 years it hasn't been right.
Well,
And before, in fairness to the residents, one night isn't going to change 2 years of what a problem has been. And if somebody doesn't get up and speak for the residents and say, you know what, we're tired of this. I am. I don't want to hear it come back. It's been 2 years. We've been back and forth with this. And, yeah, we will. And then, no, we won't. We could complaints, pictures, the whole thing. You can see it right here. How do you tell the residents, well, we got a new general manager, so, yeah, in 2 years, it hasn't been right. What's going to make it right?
well, to that exact point is, I can't sit here and tell you that you can believe me right off the rip. But what I can tell you is that, like everybody else that's spoken in this room, I have a family, and I would absolutely be losing my mind if someone had been lying to me for the last 2 years. I don't do business that way. I wouldn't do business that way. And with the town's blessing, I would like to do business the way we've all spoken about it thus far. So, given the opportunity and the approval on this year's events, I would like the chance. I would like the opportunity to prove to you that Sheldon's can follow those guidelines.
Mr. Carpenter?
Before I vote for anything, I'm going to say you need to sit with the town manager and the DCG, and they need to work up a plan. And just because Marlboro says 53 is okay, doesn't mean the people in the town of Auburn think 53 is okay.
Okay,
Now, when I reference Tinker Hill, that's behind your building.
okay.
So it's being projected up, but it's also rebounding back.
Right.
So hundreds of residents don't need to listen to music that they don't want to listen to. And to the extent that, oh, they're near a business community, throw a rock in the town of Auburn, and we're all near a business community. That doesn't mean that our residents don't deserve and should expect on a weekend, any night of the week, that they want to have a cookout, or I know we heard something about somebody was trying to do a first communion, and they couldn't do that because of this. So I'm not prepared to vote for anything this season until the town manager and the town department heads sit with you and figure out how we're going to go forward, where we're at, because my understanding with decibel levels, for a legal definition, the state has a mile. Now, we did just go through general bylaws, and I can remember reading them many, many years ago, and under the police orders, there was no decibel level, but there was an order from the police saying what you could do up until a certain period of time.
Quiet enjoyment.
And that wasn't carried over because I'm sure, well, there's a different procedure now anyways with the police chief. So he can actually make orders versus going to town meeting. So there's a difference right there.
Through the chair real quick. So what is the requirement, like if I was at home and I lived near these folks, what's the requirement as a homeowner, noise ordinance? Is it 10, is it 11? What's the town?
My recollection was 10 o'clock, it was supposed to be fairly quiet.
10 o'clock, okay. So I could blast my music up until 10 o'clock, and respectively, obviously, and it still would be right outside their doorstep, and realistic, or anybody's doorstep, I'm just using them because they're here, and I could do that, right? And it would still affect a lot of residents. What's the difference from 5 to 8? And I could go up to 10 o'clock. I'm trying to shut it down at 8, or even do it on a Saturday afternoon.
Mr. Chair, I can tell you, living in the town of Auburn for 46 years, I've never been bothered after
10 o'clock.
at any time. And my neighbors have never been so disrespectful as to play their music so loud that I can hear them, any more than I would sit there just because I could. Well, geez, I could go down the street and shoot somebody, but I don't think it's recommended. So there's a lot of things that we all can do. You know, I can walk my dog down the street and choose not to clean up after it, but that's not the polite or the respectful thing to do. So I think we need to keep in mind that it doesn't matter what we all can do. We can all do stupid stuff. Doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it respectful, and it doesn't clear 2 years of bad behavior in disrespect of this board's rules. And that, to me, is 3 strikes, you're out. So
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this has gone long. Certainly, we've had a lot of conversation here tonight. I believe I was the only one who voted in opposition of your May 17th event. Certainly, the conversation about having them on Saturday, I would be willing to talk to. But to Mr. Carpenter's point, I really think it would be a good idea to meet with DCG. I would volunteer, if the board so choose, to be a selectman's liaison at that meeting, so we could, have a voice there at that table to express the concerns and see if we can come to some type of agreement.
Is there anything else? Okay. Is there a motion?
I'm sure I'm going to make, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we deny the licenses as provided in the application for outdoor entertainment. I know we have to take them separately.
For outdoor entertainment, so to deny the application for outdoor entertainment, is there a second?
Second for
Being no
discussion.
second, so...
No, I second it for discussion.
Okay, a second for discussion. Mrs. Goodrich?
And I don't know the answer to this after all this time. Are residents allowed to have a voice at DCG meetings? No.
DCG meetings are internal.
Internal.
They're pre-meetings that are held with department heads, and the water department included, to look at things like sewer, infrastructure, public safety, public health, roadway issues, curb cuts, things like that. It's an internal meeting to help prepare the developer or the applicant prior to them going to the licensing authority, whether that be the board for a license or the planning board of the ZBA. It's not a public meeting. It's always been, since I've been here, if not even before that, a meeting of just those department heads where they can freely look at a plan and say, this is going to work, this isn't going to work, try to do this. The public aspect of it is at your meeting as a licensing authority or at a planning board meeting if it's going for site plan approval.
And
So
through the chair, when is the next DCG meeting? When are they held?
I would have to get the date. I mean, generally, we hold them once a month. If there's a need to hold one earlier, I'm looking at Bill, we would do every 2 weeks. It really depends on how many issues we have before us. We've set up a meeting for DCG within a week, as long as we can get everybody in the room together.
Also, to understand that their next event after this Sunday is going to be on the 21st. That'll be the Friday. We won't have a meeting until the 24th.
I understand that. Thank you. I'm just asking, we've opened a dialogue about Saturday events, and I certainly am willing to participate in those discussions. Thank you.
All right.
So through the chair, if I could, you guys approved us, actually, you didn't even make us get an approval, I don't think, for our Safety Saturday. We had a helicopter landing in the parking lot that was going to fly over their house, okay? And we were excited for this, and it didn't end up happening. But there was zero approval there that you needed us to do, and that certainly would have been a lot of noise and a lot of wind. Zero approval. You thought it was a great idea. You let us do it. I invited the town, and this is my debate, I guess, a little bit here, is that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be compliant, but then, to your point about giving the residents the support that they deserve, you didn't need me to do it then. You also didn't need me to do an entertainment license then, and we knew that we were going to have a DJ that day. Granted, it was inside, okay? But I came to DCG. They even said I didn't have to come see you guys, Board of Selectmen. They just said, yeah, do whatever it is that you're going to do.
Now, who they said? Because that was an indoor event. It was not an outdoor entertainment license.
Helicopter was certainly outside.
Through the chair, if I may.
Fire
the
department?
Yes.
Fire department was very involved with this, as well with UMass, that oversees the helicopters coming in and out. So the fire chief was in discussions with the fire marshal to make sure everything was okay.
Okay.
And no board requirements were necessary because there was no outdoor entertainment and there was no outdoor beer and wine.
Thank you. We're still in discussion on the motion.
Just under the last comment, we're the licensing authority. We don't have any jurisdiction over a helicopter landing. What we do have jurisdiction over are all alcohol licenses, including one-day beer and wine licenses, and any indoor or outdoor entertainment license. And I wasn't aware that there was a DJ, which would require.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Okay.
Through the chair, the next DCG meeting is on June 19th,
It's on June 19th.
a week from Wednesday.
Okay. And then their event is on the 21st, and our meeting isn't until the 24th. Okay. Mr. Berthium.
So, I guess to get clarification of what would have to happen is,
Raise your hand.
if we were to propose that Sheldon's were to go in front of the DCG again, could they get put on the agenda for that DCG meeting? Okay. First of all. Secondly, how do we, do you think we could use like Marlboro as a example for now for an event, or even go to other towns and see just how low other towns are, and maybe, if somebody's even down to 48 or whatever it might be, to use that decibel as a contingency, because for the 21st event, we would have to vote today. Otherwise, it goes to the July 19th event, the July 19th event, we would have at least another meeting. And then the third thing through the chair to the town manager is, should we maybe have a subcommittee and ask if there would be any, any residents, Ms. Goodrich, I think, would be, might be interested in doing this, and maybe ask any residents if they would be willing to, play sound, these residents here, play sound down at Sheldon's, started at 76, which is what their bottom was. Have communication with the residents, and then drop it to 60, have communication with the residents, drop it to 50, have like a subcommittee, because I think the only way that we're gonna be able to do this is to communicate with the residents beforehand on a maybe 5-minute basis, to say, yeah, that's too loud. And if it gets to the point where it's 25 decibels, and then Sheldon's has to make a decision, well, you know what, they want us to have it so low, it's not worth it for us to have.
In a challenge to you, Mr. Berthium, I think in theory it's a great idea. In practice, it probably will take till the end of the summer to have something like that happen. So,
Through the chair, can we approve these for indoor?
A different
Different
filing.
license.
yeah, that's, that would be a different
different
application.
Through the chair,
all the
you
way
you
through, and-
could, but it would be a different license application with different requirements that have to be met. Again, looking at occupancy, I think that's probably what was raised when you went to DCG with
So
that.
that was what you had said before, right?
Yeah, and even if the DCG met on the 19th, your event is the 21st, we don't meet till the 24th, so there wouldn't be any application before this board until after that event.
Right.
Through the chair to Mr. Berthium, myself, I'm not comfortable telling you what a decibel level should be without really looking into it. I would never make an off-the-cuff decision like that because it's too important. If we were to say, yeah, that's great, let's go with 50, I don't know what 50 is in that area. I would assume that topography has an impact on decibel readings because sound either will travel or go up or get muffled. So without looking at other bylaws, it's been an issue that's been raised in the town as long as I've been here about a noise ordinance, and there's a lot of complicating factors to it. So I'm happy to look into it, but I wouldn't be comfortable telling you tonight, let's just go with this level for the 21st, and then we'll figure it out later. I'm not comfortable with that. As far as a subcommittee, you are the licensing authority as the Board of Selectmen for both the liquor licenses and for the entertainment license, whether it be indoor or outdoor. The board has in your purview the ability to establish a subcommittee if that's what you choose. You had asked us to do that for the dog park committee, but you are the licensing committee, so if you want a subcommittee to help weigh into your decisions on licensing, you can do that.
Okay. Mr. Carpenter, we're still on the motion for
Yes. Well,
the application.
to that point, I don't want to rush the decibel, and if the zoning bylaw is already looking at it, I don't think the Board of Selectmen needs to Bigfoot an issue. We need to let the committees that have been established for a purpose to do their work. If we start getting involved in something that they're already taking up, it's a bad idea. I don't want to rush it. I don't want us, just like with the tiny houses, it ended up working out okay. There are still a couple of concerns that people have raised after the fact, but you don't rush planning. You need to give them time to look at it, look at everything, and again, 50 in Route 20 might be fine. 50 on Goulding Drive might be outrageous. So it's not a one-size-fit-all number, and it's really got to be looked at strongly so that we're making sure that we're not opening up other neighborhoods to other issues. That's my only...
Through the
Mr.
chair,
Carpenter.
You guys offered, or you had mentioned early in this meeting that you were hopeful that we could come to an agreement, right? And I threw out a number of options, whether it was Saturday or if it was indoors. Shoot, we could do it at 10 in the morning till 1. And it just seems like everything that we've tried to put forward to you guys, it just seems like, we're being unrealistic. So at this point, you're right, I think you had mentioned this, it's going to take us some time to even get approval. We're going to have to take the events out of Auburn at this point to be able to do these things, and I'm okay with that, so.
Yes, Mr. LaLiberty.
Through the chair, I just wanted to say I would be perfectly fine with, I know the town manager had said she wouldn't want to rush something with the decimal level. Mr. Carpenter said something similar. But if we had approved an outdoor entertainment license for them for the 21st so that they'd be able to do that with a decimal cap of 50, I think that would have been reasonable.
Yes.
I think that would be my last plea for any kind of compromise on this, but I don't think that that's the way this is going to go, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, would you add that as an amendment?
Well, I think it would reverse the motion entirely, but yeah, I would add that as an amendment.
I'm happy to withdraw my motion if somebody else wants to make a motion. I have no intention of voting to give licenses, considering the track record we have here. So I don't think it's on us to make compromises. You know, I think we've compromised a lot. I think this board has worked diligently to do that. And to suggest that somehow this board is being unreasonable is, in my opinion, ridiculous.
So,
Oh, you're asking us to come up with solutions, and I'm trying to do that.
I didn't ask you to do a damn thing.
Doreen,
okay, excuse me,
and that's what I'm trying to do.
Mr. Carpenter, you have withdrawn your motion?
Yes.
Is that acceptable to you, Mrs. Goodrich? Okay. Is there another motion on the table?
I'll make a motion to approve just the outdoor entertainment license, not the liquor license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all conditions stated upon them. Failure to comply with any and all of the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed on the license, with the added stipulation that the music does not go above a decimal reading of 50.
So you're saying that the music doesn't exceed 50?
Where are we measuring it from?
And, yeah,
Through the chair, where is your measurement gauge that you were measuring the 73, or 76.3, I'm sorry?
The band had it for us. Yeah, and I mean, if 50 is what we need to do, then certainly we would make that work.
I'll second it for discussion.
okay, so the motion's been made to approve the license with everything on the DCG and music not to exceed 50 decibels. And it's been seconded by Mr. Berthium, and Mr. Berthium, please.
I would like to ask Mr. LaLiberty to put a second stipulation that it go 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock to accommodate the residents having to put their children to bed at 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
Is that 4 to 7 on Friday or 4 to 7 on Saturday?
I think he said
Friday.
the 21st, so that would be a Friday. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll add that to
Okay,
the motion.
And to your point about Saturday, we could do that during the day, not the evening.
Okay.
That was my point about that.
Sharon, have you got that motion? Okay, so the motion's been made to approve it, as approved through the, all the departments, boards, and commissions. And for the first portion of it, music doesn't exceed 50 decibels. And the second portion of that is 4 to 7 p.m. on Friday.
21st.
Friday the 21st, thank you. Mrs. Goodrich.
Under discussion, I have to be consistent here. I feel that I've heard from too many residents to support this particular Friday night. I mean, I love Google. I use it every day, all day long, but I don't know enough about decibel readings to agree to a certain level. I've said this evening, I've been opposed to these, but I'm willing to look at a Saturday event and hope that we can work that out. But I just don't feel that I have enough input from residents. If the residents here want to speak to it about this modification, but I heard from several others, and I have to be their voice. I will absolutely look at a Saturday afternoon event.
Just as clarification, we've got This is for 621 only?
For 621 only.
621 only, it's not for the balance of the...
Right.
Okay. So does everybody understand that? The motion's been made and seconded to approve that license with 50 decibels and 4 to 7 on Friday night, the 21st only. Yes, please. One of our residents again?
I think that in an effort to be flexible, that we see how the 50 decibels go, and if it is still too loud for the residents up on Hill Street, Sunnyside, Prospect, that we do revisit and have a committee to look at that. But me personally, and I'm only speaking for myself, I would love to see how 50 sounds, and then that way we can assess, and 4 to 7 would be much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Yes. No, come in, please. We want to hear.
And I second most of what Sam said. You know, my only concern is how is this going to be measured? And, you know, how is that all calibrated? I just feel like we're moving quickly. That's all. Thank you.
To the chair, to that point, unfortunately...
Mr. Thompson, please.
Unfortunately, we need to move quickly. I'm in a seasonal business. I have till realistically the end of August, maybe the middle of September in a good year, to sell as many motorcycles as I possibly can in a seasonal scenario, and I'm competing against dealerships 100 miles south of me that can sell bikes well into November and December. It needs to move quickly, and I appreciate that. The measurement will be done at the front driveway with whatever decibel reader you would like us to do.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Abutters? To you? The board? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. The vote fails, 3-2. Yes, Mr. Berthew.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we accept a license for June 22nd, a Saturday, from 1 to 4 p.m., with the same stipulations that were on the last proposal of maximum of 50 decibels and 4 to 7, and approve that license, provide that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon them. Failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed on the license.
Mr. Berthew, they can't do a 4 to 7 on a Saturday, it's a 1 to 4? 1 to 4?
1 to 4.
Oh, you did say 1 to 4, okay, I want to be sure that was...
Just when he read the motion, he said the 4 to 7, so
Yeah.
just...
Oh, did I say?
So you're saying 1 to 4 with the music doesn't exceed 50, and 1 to 4 on the 22nd, a Saturday afternoon.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Goodrich?
Just a procedural question. If it was advertised on our agenda, I know it's not a public hearing, is this outside of the scope of the open meeting law?
I don't believe so, because you've given notice that you're discussing this calendar several times. There's not a public hearing requirement. I think the board, as the licensing authority, has the ability to change the date. You've given notice that you are discussing their calendar, and that you're taking a vote on all of these items, yes, for one day, but I believe you can change a date. I don't believe you can change the license. That would be a whole different license. But the date and the time, you've changed the times in the past also.
Okay, Mrs. Goodrich?
Through the chair, so the motion is to approve one license for June 22nd, just one license, on a Saturday from 1 to 4 with a decibel reading, which means nothing to us, of 50.
Okay. So So the motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And Mrs. Goodrich, would you vote?
I had just one more quick comment.
okay.
If there's a single complaint, if this is approved, we want to hear from you directly.
Of course.
Okay. So the motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Aye. It's approved 3-2. Prove me wrong.
Okay.
The next we have is the application for the beer and wine for that, well, I guess it's up to the board, but we've taken for the 22nd, and we've not looked at the other ones yet, so it's up to the board to decide what they want to do. Mrs. Goodrich?
I would like a better understanding of the enclosed area for the beer and wine.
Me too.
Now say that, I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I
that.
would like to have a better understanding of the fenced-in area for the beer and wine to ensure that there is no, just walking around with beer and wine and the monitoring of it.
So we have some very good barricades, so that there's a fence that basically, that in the side of the building that we lock up on a nightly basis, right? We do open it so people can walk, in and out. We can easily barricade the back, so nobody, to your point, walks around the corner and sneaks a beer. That's easy, that can be done. And then we can put some barricades at the fence and have somebody standing there, which we did have with signs saying no alcohol,
You need to move around more.
beyond this point. And that would give you an area that would be secure.
And just under discussion, I still want to move forward with an additional meeting with DCG.
Okay. Mr. Berthew?
I'm just wondering if we could quickly have Chad just draw on this map so we could all look at it, what he would be talking about, what he thinks is realistically, would that be okay through the chair?
It would be something that would have to be agreed to with the DCG, because I'm not sure if his suggestion would be meet the requirements of the DCG.
They're the ones that came up with the map.
They are the ones, okay?
They're the ones that made that for us, the fire department, and I forget his name, but he had come out.
So could you just
Yeah.
trace the fenced-in area that we're talking about? So here.
Yeah, so right here. All right, so the fence is here. Right, and then we could easily, so the van's here, they don't go up that far, it's really to the back of the building, so we could.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, if he could go back to his seat and so everyone can hear him.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So ultimately, there's a fence that the town knows about that we have on the side of the building, and then we could barricade the back and give you a secure area for the liquor or beer.
Okay. This will be resolved. These pictures of people being outside of the area,
That's inside the area.
that's inside.
Yeah, all of those pictures are inside.
See right there.
Okay. Okay. Here, all the way through. Sharon, have you got a motion? Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion?
No, there was no motion, Mr. Berthew.
I'll make a motion that we approve a one-day beer and wine license for June 22nd, 2019, from the hours of 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled, said license is subject to all conditions stated upon them. Failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed on the license with the addition of allowing the fenced-in area as proposed in the map that is in our packets.
Okay. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Sharon, do you have that? Okay. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. The motion passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your
Good
time.
luck.
All right, yes, thank you.
And
We'll be in touch with them for DCG for June 19th.
okay, we'll be in touch with you. They'll be in touch with you for the DCG for June 19th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just ask a question? Does the manager want a formal vote that we request a meeting with DCG, or is...
No, that's fine, we'll get it all set up.
You get it? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
just
Mrs. Goodrich.
Regarding the DCG meeting, I would ask that in the conversations that we have a discussion about a police detail.
About?
Just begin a conversation about a police detail there, so that we can monitor noise levels as well as the alcohol. Just open the discussions regarding it.
So that could be something that the DCG could...
Yeah, just open the discussions.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we appoint Mrs. Goodrich as our representative to DCG for the purposes of...
Liaison?
Yep. For these,
Okay.
for these type of licenses. Let's
Okay.
put it-
If she's willing.
Are you willing to do that?
Take the time off from work and make it happen.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now, I would appreciate we move up item 5C, the application for the seasonal open-air license on town property for the Boy Scout troop.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And do we have a representative from the Boy Scouts here?
Sheldon's on that one.
I scribbled it out, because I was thinking it was the one day.
Take this one over, so Bill and Joanne can go.
Yep. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
A little timely tonight, but I appreciate your patience. Just tell us a little bit about what your plan is.
Okay. Every year, we usually
And
write...
would you just identify
Oh,
yourself for
yeah,
the board,
Kevin
please?
Seaman, Troop Committee Chair for 121 in Auburn.
Thank you.
Every year, the Saturday after July 4th, the troop likes to have a can drive. It's their fundraiser for the year, one of their fundraisers. And typically, we like to have it at the Auburn Fire Station, the main station there on Auburn Street, right next to it. And so we have it on July 6th. We'd like to have it on that day between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Pretty much, we've done it so much, we have the logistics, we clean it up, we bag it all, a truck comes and takes it all, and we clean up the area afterwards, so that's what we do.
We also have a letter from the fire chief saying that he's more than happy to have it down there. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the license application as provided for the date, July 6, 2019, from 9 to 1 at the fire station municipal lot, as outlined by the chief.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Is there a further motion?
Make a motion, we waive the license fee.
Second.
Is there a discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much, and
so much.
good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go back to our,
60.
yeah, we'll go back to item 5B.
It's okay, I'll wait till member. That's okay, I'll wait till member items.
I beg pardon?
I just wanted to make a comment on that. If we could put it on the next agenda, that if we have these repeat seasonal open-air licenses that are held annually, that we not require the applicant to be here. Just put it on the agenda for the next meeting so that we don't keep them waiting, because we've never had any issues with that. Thank you.
So that's the open air for the Boy Scouts.
Any troops that
Okay,
have
any
the
of the
seasonal
troops.
open air, whether it's at the library or the thing, as long as there's been no issues, I think we should have a discussion on not
thank you.
requiring them to be
We
here
will
and
put
wait.
that on for the next agenda. Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Okay, so the next thing we do is we have the application for one-day beer and wine for the Town of Auburn Package Golf Course.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bill Coyle, DPW Director.
Kristen Pappas, Packagug Golf Course Clubhouse Manager.
Okay, maybe you can explain a little bit about what it's going to be. It did go through last year without too much problem, but just explain
Yes.
a little bit about what it is.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I believe this is our third year of the 30-day beer and wine license at the golf course. And so we're once again requesting the same license. We are looking to have the license granted from July 3rd, then the 4th, which is a Thursday, 5th, 6th, and 7th, I believe. We're going to go to that Monday, and then after that, we would do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until Labor Day weekend. And I believe the last day is the Monday or Tuesday on that Labor Day. Let me just check. It might be the day after, just bear with me. I'm sorry, on Monday. All of the employees will be tip certified, and we've also have a policy that everybody is carded. It doesn't matter what the age is, and there's no alcohol allowed off-site of the building itself, so they can have alcohol inside the clubhouse and also on the deck, but there's signs posted, no alcohol beyond this point. To my knowledge, we haven't had any problems or complaints in the past, and it's gone smoothly, and we're hoping that it continues to. So we're looking for your support. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Terrific. Is there any, yes, Mr. Carpenter?
I know last year we did it, and there was a discussion that you were going to do a more formalized rather than do the 30-day. So where are we in that process? And
Yeah, we've looked at it, and I believe the concern has been more of a liability issue with the town, where typically golf courses are privately owned. You know, clearly they're in a better position when you're privately owned to have the full beer and wine license and have that liability and insurance in place. So I think we've looked at it, and there were some concerns raised by legal counsel in the past, so that's why we've continued to do the 30-day beer and wine license.
Is there anything else? Mr. Berthew?
So would our insurance be different for the 30-day to, say, have it every day during the summer?
Yeah, well, I think it's more the application process too, Julie.
Through the chair, it was also, there were a number of different concerns. We hope that down the road we can revisit this again, but as it stands now, the license application process through the state requires the applicant to be responsible party for the license, and the applicant is a town, and they require an individual. So the issue comes down to what individual takes that responsibility. So if I sign that application to the state, I have to be on site every single time alcohol is being served. So the person who's applying and is the manager of it. So there was some concerns as to, we didn't want to have Kristen to have to be there all the time. There's concerns about the storage of the alcohol. You have to have a place to store it. It has to be stored in a certain manner. And if it's a full liquor license, that storage requirement is a little tougher than if it's the 30-day. So the liability-wise, it fell more upon who's going to be the actual applicant. A lot of towns don't take a license out on their own. We're still trying to find a way to make it happen, and maybe in the future we can, but for right now, the 30-day licenses, we're allowed to, for maximum, apply for 31-day licenses, so that's what we're doing. Doesn't mean we won't revisit it, but there were some concerns with town council that we couldn't find a way to address.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the license for the 30 days, one-day beer and wine licenses, Town of Auburn Packagug Golf Course, provide that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon them. Failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed on the license.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Anything else you'd like to say? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your hard work.
Could you take 6A?
Okay. I'd like to request that we move up Town Manager item 6A, the roadway improvement update.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And we'll have Bill.
Yes, I can introduce, so obviously, Bill Coyle, who's the DPW Director, Joanna Paquin, who's our civil engineer, and they're here to present to you what has become their annual update to you about the roadway improvement project that we started back in 2011, and to show you what roads are going to be done, what roads have been done, and I just have to say, it's been an incredibly successful program. As you know, we are one of the models in the state for having a long-term roadway improvement program in place. We're looking much beyond a typical 5-year period. We're actually looking out at a 20 to 30-year period. And Bill and myself have been invited to speak at various places in the state because it is a unique program to be able to look that far ahead. So I just want to congratulate Bill and Joanna and everyone who's involved in this because they do a great, great job on it.
Well done. I
You
ride
can
over the
see-
streets all the time. They're great.
It's incredible. So anyway, tonight they're here to just present to you what's coming up for the coming year and some of your, what you've done in the past, which is a great.
Thank you, Julie. And so, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Joanna and myself drove all the town roads earlier this spring, so there was 97 miles. We looked at every road and we rated each road when we developed the next list of projects that we're going to be working on for FY 2020. To update you on our current projects, PJ Keating, the contractor for the FY 19 contract, is just finishing up with all of their work currently on the last contract. They may still have some limited seeding work to do, but for the most part, the project is complete. So we've developed the next list of projects, and when we do that, we try to look at neighborhood streets, but we also look at main roads. So typically, we'll look at neighborhoods that are some of them in the worst condition, but then we look at some of the main roads that, again, I always say at each meeting, try to keep your good roads good. But we try to balance the traffic volume on the roadways and also the need for the improvements when we develop our list. So I have the list of the FY 2020 projects, and I also have another summary sheet that I wanted to go over with you briefly as well. I know it's been a long night, so I won't get into too much detail. Typically with roadways, I tend to talk quite a bit, kind of near and dear to our heart. So in FY 2020, I will go over the list of projects, and I'll read the limits if it's not obvious on some of them. So Bancroft Street, from Millbrae Street to the Turnpike Bridge, that section is deteriorated much worse than the remaining portions of Bancroft Street, so we're looking to pulverize that portion. Barbara Avenue, these are alphabetical order, so if I skip over any, they're in the same neighborhood, it's because they're in alphabetical order. Barbara Avenue, from South Street to Westchester Drive. Cooper Street, which is a small dead-end road off of Jerome Ave, very poor condition. Hurd Street, from the Worcester line to Duncan Street. It's a relatively short portion of roadway. I can tell you we were out there quite a bit this past winter with potholes, and as you all know, it's a very heavily traveled roadway. Hilton Ave, a small roadway but in poor condition, and it's also part of Wyoma, which is at the end. Jerome Ave from Packagug to Southford Street. Jerome is an example of a roadway that where Cooper Street is adjacent to it. Jerome is not in as poor of condition, so we would look to mill and overlay this section versus pulverize. Marion Avenue, again in the Barbara Ave neighborhood. Marjorie Ave, Barbara Ave neighborhood. Midstate Drive, this is a section a roadway that we've had quite a few complaints on, and it was probably one of the last roads that, in looking at our list, that we tried to get some work done on this section of roadway. And so what we did is we were incorporating 650 feet of what we thought was the worst section from Goulding into Midstate. Based on the bids, when we bid this contract, if there are sufficient funds, we look to extend that to the end of the road, the end of the Midstate Drive. But at this point, we're focusing on that section that's in the worst condition, with hopes of doing the entire section of Midstate Drive. Overhill Drive and Rice Road, both of those are very poor condition neighborhood streets that people probably don't drive over too much because they're kind of off the beaten path a little bit. Rochdale Street, from Lorna to number 200. So this is picking up where we left off when we did the Burnett Street area. We would start at Lorna, and Lorna then goes, number 200 is in the area of Gleason Park. I'm sorry, Rotary.
Rotary Beach,
Park.
yeah.
And there's also a pavement joint there. So we would end where we left off on the Burnett Street project, and then where we did some leveling as you're heading towards Leicester Street, and kind of tie those pieces together. Then Rochdale Street from West Street to the Oxford Town Line, another section that was probably done, I have it in my notes, I think about 16, 17 years ago, that we looked at mill and overlay. This is probably one of the most heavily traveled sections of road in town. And you can see, especially in the winter when we're out at 5 in the morning, the floodgates open, and the amount of traffic that travels that section from the Oxford line to West Street is incredible. We were out there quite a bit this past year in the winter filling potholes, so that section's in need of repair. We have two sections of South Street from Washington Street, from Route 20 to just to number 139, which is a few hundred feet beyond Potter's Farm. South Street is a roadway that I feel as though we could do the entire length of road if we had the money. Some areas are worse than others, so we chose the two sections that were worse. And then South Street from number 414 to the Oxford Town Line, so basically 1,400 feet of the section from the Oxford Town Line, 1,400 feet inward into Auburn. Westchester Drive, again, part of the Barbara Ave neighborhood, and then Wyoma Drive, which is off of Hilton, off of Packagug. So total distance of about 4.4 miles. Joanna has started working on the bid package. Doing this while we're also trying to oversee the work that was ongoing. I'd say that we're probably halfway through inventorying all of the quantities for the project, and we hope to go out to bid sometime probably in mid-July. So considering this is almost 4.5 miles, it's not likely that all of this will get done this year. We have completed FY19 work. The money doesn't come available until July, and so we're trying to move forward as quickly as we can with it. So that's the next list of projects. We will post this online so that anyone who wants to view the list, they can go on the town's website, and we'll have that available for them tomorrow. And be happy to answer any questions relative to FY.
Along with the roadway repairs, and thank you very much for this. This is, the roads in town are just incredible. They're so much improved over anything we've ever seen around this town, and I've been here since day one. But you guys have done an awesome job. One of the things I think I mentioned to you at one point last year or something about the sealing of cracks. You've got a program ongoing with that also?
Yeah, so we'll probably start the crack sealing in September. Right now, we're just finishing up with the street sweeping Soon we'll be going into painting, line painting, crosswalks, and also other repairs, rebuilding catch basins, berm repairs. And then the air temperature is best suited in the early fall, so when September arrives, when you put the crack seal down, because it gets very tacky. So if you were to place that down in 85-degree temperature and 90-degree temperature, the asphalt temperature is well over 100. It's a little more difficult. So we're either going to try to do that in the spring, which we're focusing on other efforts, or in the fall. So we'll be doing more in the fall. There's always more I'd love to do with crack sealing, because I'm a huge fan of it, trying to, again, preserving our good roads. And we've started with the roads that are in the best condition. After 3 years, we look at them, and if they're starting to crack, we'll seal those. And then roads that we did 4 years ago, we would seal those, and down 5 years and work backwards. So we've made a lot of headway, but we'll continue in the early fall, late summer, early fall.
Great. Thank you both very much. Is any board members got anything? Well, thank you very much, and you are going to post it on...
I'm sorry, there's one more part to this.
Okay.
Chair. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I have one more item. This was
Great.
something that Joanna and I worked on and completed today in hopes of having it ready just to kind of piggyback the roadway update. So what we've done is you have a list of all of the roadways that have been resurfaced or reconstructed since 2011, and then I won't go through all the streets, but we have attached the entire inventory of roadways that we've done, starting with 2011, and this is a 9-year period. So after 9 years, you can see there's 36.6 miles of roads, of town roads that we've completed with town funds in Chapter 90, and that total number is over $13 million so far in the past 9 years. In addition to that, we were successful in getting the state on the number, the 2011 number below, which is state or other projects. The state funded $1.265 million of projects on town roads, and that's not counting Route 20 or Route 12. These are on town roads, so Millbury Street, Water Street, I think portions of Swanson Road, Vine Street. We actually were successful in getting the state to pay to do that work. And then 2013 was work that was completed as part of utility work. So a total of 3.44 miles additionally, for a grand total of 40 miles of town roads that have been completed in 9 years. We have 97 miles of roads in town. If you add what we're proposing this year, the 4.4 miles, that puts us about 44.5 miles of roadway. So we are at about 41% completion currently, with the other 4.5 will be about 47% complete at year 10. So we're almost halfway through our 20-year plan, and you can see we're almost halfway through getting half the roads in town paved, either reconstructed or resurfaced.
Outstanding. What about Chapter 90 monies? Do we see any increase in that from the state?
We haven't. We always advocate for additional funds. We did receive $110,000, I believe it was, last year. There was over and above the original allocation of Chapter 90, so I will say we did receive those funds that will go towards this project as well. We've been advocating for an additional $100 million per year to go from $200 million to $300 million. Last year, I believe the appropriation was another $40 million across statewide, so we did receive more funding, which was excellent, and we're happy to get those funds as well.
Great. Great.
If I could, I'd like to make one more point, because I thought this was interesting. So we have a list of roads that were done from 1996 to 2007. And it's interesting, when you look at the average that was done back then, it was 31 miles total completed, averaging about 2.5 miles per year. At that rate, it would take 37 to 38 years to do all the roads in town, which is kind of, I think, the trend that the town has seen. That some people say, my road hasn't been done in 40 years. Well, that's easily understood when you look at what was done in the past. So with the town contributing the additional funds that it has, which is the $525 and now $535,000 in the engineer's account, and also funds through the drainage account and replace pipes and catch basins, is a total of $800,000 to $900,000 per year additionally going towards town roads. So with the town's commitment of funding has allowed us to now have this program in place where we should have all town roads completed within a 20 to 22 year period.
Outstanding. Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, with road reconstruction and resurfacing in residential areas come issues. And I have to say, in a couple of the recent jobs that you've done, when there was an issue, I heard from residents who commented how responsive you are. So thank you for that. That's what we hear over and over again with you as our DPW director. There may be an issue, but you are very responsive, and we do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything else? Have you got anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
time
Bill.
and your patience coming in tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Okay. We'll go back here to the agenda. All right. Next thing we have is discussion on the summer meeting schedule. We want to see maybe July 15th and August 12th, but leave it up to the board and see what your thoughts are. Has anybody looked at their summer schedules and had a chance to take a look? I'm sure we will be meeting again, I think on the 24th.
You'll be meeting on the 24th, but
Yes.
generally, at this meeting, you set your schedule so everyone can plan for agendas. We just, in discussion with the chair when we did the agenda the other day, we just chose these dates because they were in the middle of the month, so it really provided a 4-week period between meetings as opposed to moving it around where you had one that was a 3-week and one was a 6-week.
That's what we always did on the planning.
Yeah.
You could get as much as you could.
Yeah, exactly.
So these dates in front of you are something that's a suggestion. It's not etched in stone, so we just wanted to hear from the board and find out what your plans were. Yes, Mr. Berthew?
Works for me, Mr. Chair.
Definitely works for me.
Yeah, I don't have any conflicts, so it works for me.
I don't usually take a summer vacation, so
Okay, well then, I guess that's what we'll do then, is we'll set our meeting schedule for the summer. The summer meetings on Monday, July 15th, and then Monday, August 12th, and with the stipulation that if there's anything comes up in between, we'll notify you, and it'll be you'll be notified properly.
do you want a motion to that effect?
Yes, Kate, would you please?
I'll make a motion that the board set its summer meeting schedule to be in July, Monday, July 15th, and in August, Monday, August 12th, and obviously if something urgent comes up, subject to a call of the chair at any time.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, we have gift acceptances. I guess we have an additional one here, so I will be sure that gets incorporated. We have gift acceptances in accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 44. The first one from Polar Beverages for $2,500 for the Summer Concerts 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept with gratitude and that a letter be prepared for the chair's signature to the company.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The second one tonight is from the Fire Rescue Department for $100,
Motion to accept with gratitude.
and that's from James and Patricia Finnegan in memory of Carolyn Donahue for $100.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We have no proclamations or recognitions in front of us tonight. Board and committee reappointments. The Board of Registrar of Voters. Michael L. McNamara has agreed to be reappointed to the Board of Registrars, and we need a motion to reappoint him.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to reappoint Mr. McNamara for a term expiring June 30th, 2022 to the Board of Registrar of Voters.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. For the Zoning Board of Appeals, J. Lawrence Chicolo has advised that he would like to be reappointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to reappoint Mr. Chicolo to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now, under the town manager items, we have taken care of the roadway improvement update. And now, Ms. Jacobson, annual Independence Day celebration event, July 1st.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, just want to remind everybody that that is the date. There is a flyer in your packets. These have been posted on our website, social media, they're all around town. Want to thank everybody who's involved in putting this together, and also our sponsors, which right now Bank Hometown is sponsoring the concert, but we also have other sponsors that are actually on our other literature that I apologize, it's not on this one in your packet, but we do have the WRTA and the Auburn Mall also as sponsors, and we're going to have the same bus situation that we've had in the last few years. It's been very successful, so we thank the WRTA for providing those buses, as well as AA Transportation through the school department. So we will have our transportation, as we always have, parking at the mall as we always have, and we're grateful to the mall for that. The maps of our parking and drop-off points are on our website. And the date is Monday, July 1st, with a rain date of July 2nd. So once again, we all cross our fingers that we don't have a rain date of July 2nd, that we just go with the 1st. We will be reaching out to the various potential elected officials, so clearly all of you are included, and we usually invite the school department as well as our legislative delegation to attend.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the Emergency Management Performance Grant application.
Thank you. Through the chair, this is a grant that we have been applying for annually. It is a formula-based grant. Last year, I believe the amount was $4,482, and we did apply for that amount, and then the state didn't quite have as much as we thought we did, and what they were going to have, so they had reduced it to $4,100. So I'm putting in here this evening to allow us to apply for up to $4,500, because I'm hoping that the standard formula amount is back up there again this year. We're going to apply for it and see what happens. But just a reminder, this is what we use to fund 50% of our Code Red, with the other 50% coming from local cable funds. And it's just been a phenomenal program. It's worked out great. The price has remained steady with Code Red, even though their features have enhanced and increased. So we think it's a great program to keep providing to our residents.
Okay.
So if you could have a vote to allow us to apply for.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we vote to authorize, accept, and expend funds in an amount up to $4,500 towards the Code Red emergency notification system. It's called the Emergency Management Performance Grant application.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now we go to update. The new Town of Auburn website is launched. Ms.
Yes, it
Jacobson.
is. So just through the chair, just want to let everyone know, if you haven't been on our website, it's launched. It went live last Thursday. As you probably know, this has been a multi-month process, and I really want to thank our IT department and Director Mike Marino and Amanda Gage and all the department heads for working on this. And we are working on this with the consultant, and the website is much more user-friendly. If you haven't seen it, please do. There will be some kinks here and there because it just launched, so it's a whole process of getting everything that was on there transitioned to the new website and making sure that what was in one place is now relocated somewhere else. So if you do see something, or if a resident sees something, please let us know. It is going to occasionally happen where the website developer potentially took an old document from another site and put it in the wrong spot. That's going to happen. But for the most part, everything's up, it's functioning, it's running. We've had several trials. So please take a look at it. And want to thank you for supporting the article at town meeting, as well as town meeting members for doing this. I think our residents will find it's a much better system than anything we've had in the past.
Terrific. Anybody got anything on that? Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Under tabled items, discussion on the House and Senate bill regarding voting age for municipal elections. We did get a letter from Mr. Hanfield at Auburn High School, and if you'd like to take make any comments?
Sure. I'll just say it was less than ideal. It wasn't what I was hoping for to hear from our residents or from our students. So guess I won't push it any further. But I do hope that the state goes and continues in this direction. And I think it's a good idea for the long run to get students involved at the municipal level. And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Anybody got anything else on that? All right, thank you. Under Board of Selectmen member items, discussion on the proposed plastic ban bylaw. Mr. LaLiberty.
So the vote from the town at our last town meeting seemed pretty supportive of the idea that we continue to look into a general bylaw to restrict the distribution of plastic bags. So I wanted to bring this back to the board, see where everyone was, and what our next steps would be with this.
I guess my question to you is, do you want to, I think probably an independent review of this would be a good way to go, but I don't know if this is what you want to send as a document and give them some sort of a base to start with, or should they start from scratch with what information came from the vote at the town?
Sure, I would suggest sending the bylaw draft that I had come up with a while ago to, I guess, the bylaw review committee to look at and amend however they saw fit, and go from there.
Yep, through
Is
the
that something we
chair.
can do?
Yeah, we'll talk to the bylaw review committee. As you probably know, we had several years ago a general bylaw review committee, and that process, I think Mr. Carpenter mentioned it earlier, but that process closed out. The general bylaws have been approved. Now we have a zoning bylaw review committee. So while this isn't a zoning bylaw, I think it's still appropriate to ask them if they'd be willing to take a look at it, because they are reviewing other bylaws. Granted, they're all zoning, but I think it would be an opportunity to have them. They are residents, they're active, they're engaged. I think it would be great to send it to them. I would also recommend that the board may want to consider sending it to the Solid Waste Committee, who's also been extremely supportive of this initiative, and have them take a look at it as well and see if they may have any comments.
Yes, anything further?
No, I don't have anything further. I think that's a good idea. We should send
Well, I
it
think we
along.
probably should have a motion on, who to send this to for discussion, for input, and, return back to us. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to send the draft bylaw included in the packet to the zoning bylaw review committee as well as the solid waste committee to review and make suggestions as they fit.
Okay, it's been, motion been made and seconded. Sharon, have you got that? Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Public comments? We have none. I'll ask, any of the members have anything for, before we close up for the night?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
In looking at the early voting for 16 to 17-year-olds, I know we've all had discussions up here about how to get those who are already have the gift of the franchise to come out and vote. So I would ask that for the next meeting that we have a member item to discuss maybe creating a subcommittee to see if we, as a board, in working with the town clerk and other community organizations, can try and pump up our numbers,
Okay.
or how to reach out, the best way to reach out.
Okay, well, then we can put that on as a member item for you and possibly discuss that. So you heard it here first. Bring back some suggestions and we'll discuss it on our next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Next, we have minutes from April 10th, 2019. These are executive session minutes.
I don't believe they are.
These are not, but the minutes of the executive session. There was nothing, it was just that we made the motion to go into executive session and that we went out, so,
That's the open session part of that meeting.
Okay.
That's the open session where you took the vote.
okay, so,
Adjourn, and the executive
So
session
we
part.
might want to,
right,
yeah, so we might want to do this.
so, yeah.
minutes of the
Yeah, I
executive
have to
session.
change-
So
I will change
that's a good catch, Mr. Chairman. We'll change that, because it's not
Okay.
the minutes of
It's
the
not the
executive
minutes,
session. It's the
right.
meeting where there was an executive session.
Right, and we just had that, and it just, so this is just the motion that we accepted, and we went into executive session on it. It was not topic of the executive session at the time. Then we also have minutes from May 13th. Is there any discussion, corrections, errors, omissions? Mr. Berthew?
Just the paragraph under Sheldon's, it's our May 13th minutes, but it says the board voted to approve licenses for the event on April 26th. Are those the correct dates that we approved on the May 13th meeting? April 26th and April 22nd. It just looked funny to me that
Come for that now.
So the Board of Selectmen general items, first page, Sheldon's Harley Davidson, 914 Southbridge Street. It says the board had voted to approve the licenses.
Well, yeah, it said the board,
Two licenses.
right, it said the board had voted.
Had, okay.
Correct, to approve it for the event on April 26th during your April 22nd meeting.
I read it wrong.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's okay.
Okay. Anything else on that? Being none, we'll accept them as presented, and if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion, have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, and good night.